some other people sign on because there's always a couple people late to the party.
Sure.
It's good to see you. You're looking fucking handsome as ever.
You're looking handsome as ever. How are you?
I'm chilling, bro. I'm, just doing this shit. Like,
Yeah, it's been going well.
it has been going well. I'm gonna, the consensus right now seems to be let's continue this after quarantine is over. So I'm gonna go guerrilla style. Woody's working on
Nice.
a fucking logo for me.
Nice. Who's doing the
So
logo?
Woody.
Nice. Woody
Ma-
Bats.
Main man Woody Bats is going to be doing my logo for me, so
Amazing.
all of that looks good, and yeah, we'll see what happens. I got some plans for the show. I JT on Friday.
Hold on one sec. It's
No,
hanging
please
on the
take your
hook
time.
outside. Sorry. The missus was looking for the raincoat to walk the dog.
No worries. I walked my dogs right before we started because I knew it was going to rain, so I totally get it.
How you feeling not training right now?
Well, I got right before, like literally the last night Clockwork was open, I went to the comp class and I was rolling with Brown Belt David and I decided to play stand up with him. He judo threw me. I don't know what
Oh,
happened. He
shit.
he stayed connected to me and like I separated my shoulder.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Damn.
I've been the last
What?
week, this week was the first week that I was able to like start lifting weights or doing anything.
You went to the hospital, they put it back in, all that stuff?
No, it was just it
Knew
was
it.
a grade 2 separation, so I just did like home PT and then went from there.
Shit, man.
So I
So
haven't been able
timing
to
was
fucking
perfect.
do anything. Yeah, timing was perfect. Clockwork's been closed 6 weeks. My shoulders healed up. So I'm hoping I started throwing around some kettlebells this week, so I should be good to go by the time we open the gym back up, hopefully.
Nice.
Cool, man. So anyway, as people start to kind of pile in, we're gonna jump right in. So, guys, for those of you just tuning in, welcome to the Half Guard Half Hour. My amazing, wonderful guest, longtime friend of mine, Mr. Phil O'Leary.
Thank
Phil,
you.
welcome to the Half Guard Half Hour. Thank you for joining me. I am
Thank you for
honored and
inviting me.
humbled. I am honored and humbled to have such a great humanitarian like yourself, great American Purple Belt.
I'm honored and humbled to be here, and you got me really thinking about Jiu Jitsu, this whole setup for this, and just making me realize how much I miss you and miss all the people at Clockwork and the whole thing. So it's been actually really nice to get my head back into Jiu Jitsu for a minute, even though I'm
Yeah,
not
man.
currently training, you know?
Kyle's got a great show at 6 o'clock that I have to plug Perfect Roll Review, and I think that the um, stuff he's doing over there is amazing. But as my guest of honor, let's kind of jump right in. Phil, for those that watching that may not know you or not know your background, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about some things you do outside of jiu-jitsu.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm, born and bred in New York. I'm currently a photographer, also a filmmaker. Recently made a documentary called The Buffalo Hunt, which takes place on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota. And it's a very sort of intimate, visceral portrait snapshot on the people that live there. And right before this all happened, we were in the midst of promoting it and sort of trying to get it out into the world and get Native issues out there for people to see.
Awesome, man. So, one of the reasons why I wanted to chat with you and talk to you tonight was because of your background as a photographer and having worked on that documentary. So, in doing my research on you, Phil,
Nice.
I
Shit.
looked up. I came across an article ABC had written about you guys and your documentary. So can you talk to me a little bit about your process in making this documentary and talk to me a little bit about what went into getting this project started for you?
Yeah. It originally started with the protests that were happening in North Dakota. Remember the Dakota Access Pipeline that went in under the Missouri River? And actually, me and Kyle Turboss, another clockwork, guy, decided to go out there just to sort of see what was happening. We brought our cameras, didn't really know what was going to happen, but we really were also supporting them and just like wanted to go out there to show support and also just to sort of start documenting what was happening because it was looking pretty, there was a lot of atrocities that were happening to the native people and the water protectors there. And we started making a documentary about the situation in Standing Rock with the Dakota Access Pipeline. Over time, we met a group of Lakota Indians that were traveling from their reservation 300 miles away to show support to the people that were protesting there and to the Standing Rock Sioux. And Julian Bear Runner, one of the leaders of the Lakota Sioux that were there, asked us to go home with him to meet with his dad, who's one of the medicine men of the tribe. And, we went back home with him, and that's where we ultimately ended up making this documentary because we thought that the story was a lot more interesting when you really dive into what happens when the circus leaves town. Standing Rock, the Dakota Access Pipeline, it was this massive protest with hundreds of people. And, it was visually, it was stunning and it was unusual and it was upsetting and it was a militarized police force and a lot of horrible things happening to people on all sides of it. But what happens when that circus leaves town and people have to go home and back to their reservation, which is extremely impoverished? And Pine Ridge, the place where we ultimately filmed, is the poorest county in America. We're talking, the life expectancy for a man there is 47 years old.
Wow.
For women, it's 52. I mean, I'm 45. I'm at the end of my life if I live in Pine Ridge. And so we and then there's also diabetes is 4 times the national average there. Massive teen suicide rate. I mean, alcoholism, methamphetamine addiction, all the things, the bad things that you think about when you think about the poor, Native American reservations. In addition to that, when you're there, it's also probably some of the most beautiful people I've ever been around with this amazing culture where they respect their elders and the earth and the spirit of the land in a way that I won't even try to attempt to put words to. And so, and so we were not just fascinated with sort of this impoverished culture. I think we were more interested in this beautifully rich culture, and also thinking to ourselves, this story needs to be told because these are the people we need to be looking for the answers.
Right.
And, and that's what the film's called The Buffalo Hunt, and their story is told through them going out and hunting a buffalo. And as they kill this buffalo and the different parts of the buffalo travel to different parts of the reservation, we follow that. And through that, you get into people's homes, you get into their kitchens, you get into the politics, you get into all the spiritual stuff I just talked about. And that's kind of what we set out to do.
So I understand, that this was a year-long project. So talk to me about what that was like day to day for you, living and breathing this project over the course of a year to get this movie made.
Yeah, so actually, believe it or not, we started, it took 3 years from start to finish, but on the reservation, every once in a while going and filming for about a year. It was an amazing process. I mean, the subjects in the documentary, Julian Bear Runner, Chief Rick Graygrass, Will Plenty Arrows, they become my extended family. And I developed such a love for them and such a closeness to them that it's kind of incredible, really. But it was also very challenging. I mean, it's a really poor place, and there's a lot of horrible things happening there. And so to sort of fall in love with this culture and love with this spirituality and these people that are in this documentary, but then also seeing these tragedies happening within their lives, it was really emotionally, it was difficult. It was a hard process for me. And also me being a, for lack of better terms, a white filmmaker from Brooklyn, sort of helicoptering in and trying to tell the story. There's a lot of weird feelings around that, like, do I belong there? Is it my, and so, but those feelings really directed the film in this way where we decided to do no narration. We did no interviews. And it's kind of this documentary that's a fly on the wall film where the story of what's happening in their lives is told strictly through them. Obviously when you bring out a camera and you add music and editing, you are crafting some sort of narrative. You are telling a story. But we thought that it would be best if we tried to just disappear as much as possible. None of our voices are on the camera. And so it was really challenging. And it's also freezing ass cold there. We shot in the winter and it's like, the batteries died in the cameras and getting the gear around. And so it was challenging, man, for sure.
So speaking of challenging, and you brought this up just a minute ago, and I'm very curious about this. You talked about being, the white man dropping in and helicoptering into this world. What pushback or feedback did you get being that outsider coming into this world? Did you face resentment from some of the tribe members or anybody you were working with? And how did that make you feel ultimately at the end of the day?
I mean, there's a lot of layers to that. On the reservation itself, we spent so much time establishing trust before we even started shooting. And we were with those guys at Standing Rock, and we filmed a lot of the guys in my documentary were arrested in Standing Rock, and we were with them when they were arrested, and we were dealing with a lot of the same violence that they were dealing with from the militarized police force that was there. So by the time Julian Bear Runner brought me home to meet Chief Rick, we were already really connected. And so I think most of the people in the res, when they saw me walking around with Julian, they were like, oh, these guys are like brothers already. And the Lakota are the most accepting, loving people if they believe that you're there for the right reasons. And so I never had any problems really on the res. There was, technically, like, getting people to sign releases was hard for the documentary. Everyone that has to be in the documentary has to sign a release. And native people don't want to sign shit. They don't want to sign documents that white people are presenting them. So I had a lot of conversation. That was probably the hardest thing I had to do. Was I'd be filming all day, and then at the end of the day, I'd be like, hey, you're going to be in the film, you got to sign a release. And some people didn't want to do it. Ultimately, every single person that I asked did. And I think I had 140 releases signed. And then, when the film was made, it was terrifying. I mean, we had made this, and it's a very intimate portrait of their lives. If you've seen the film and if people watch this film, it's really very honest and very raw. And we made a decision that we were going to have our big screening for the guys in the film, for the people on the reservation. So we rented a theater in Bismarck, which is the closest city to Pine Ridge. We rented this beautiful old theater. We hired buses. We bussed in about 100 people from the reservation to come for sort of the big, the big premiere of the movie. And it was the scariest day of my life. And I said to Phil, the director, another Phil, I said, look, he goes, what are you going to do if they fucking hate it? I said, I'm not going to release it. He's like, we put 3 years on this. How much money? Blah, blah, blah. And time. I said, look, if they feel like we got it wrong, this film will not be released. It was that simple. And they came to the premiere, and we had this beautiful old theater, and they were overwhelmed by it. We laughed together. They cried at certain points of it. I mean, one of the main guys in my film died right before this happened, tragically in a car accident. His mother was there. And I sat with his mother before the film and hugged her and said, this might be really hard for you. And after the film, she says, it was so amazing to see my son in this way. And it's so special. And so once we had sort of the rubber stamp from the people this film was made about, we kind of were like, we felt a lot more confident. And then, you know, over the, you know, here we are a couple years later from that screening. You know, we've shown it to many audiences around the world. This film was played in Italy, in France, in Prague, in Europe, all over America. Me and Julian Bear Runner, who's sort of the main person in my film, we've gone and spoke to high schools, junior high schools. You know, we've shown the film and have done huge Q&As for audiences, and it's been really special, man. It's been great, you know.
So the documentary took home a couple of awards in Prague and Canada at a couple film festivals out there. Talk to me about that feeling, right? What was that feeling like, getting acknowledged in the Canada International Film Festival and the Prague Film Awards? Talk to me about that end result. What was that feeling like for you guys winning those awards?
You know, it's good, but at the same time, like, for me as a filmmaker, this is the first film I ever made, by the way. You know, and those things are actually really hard. It's harder for me to go to these places and because you just, I don't know, you always feel like you can do better, or there's other films that are more deserving. You know, a lot of the larger film festivals passed on us, and so you feel a little bittersweet about that, but then you kind of understand why. But it felt really great. I mean, we won an award at the London International Film Festival, and my 8-year-old son Flynn was there. I took him to the dinner with my wife and my wife's family, and I got to go up. It was for best editing, so I accepted it on behalf of my editor, Phil, also the director, wasn't there. And that was when I think that was the first time I actually gave myself even a slight pat on the back, because it felt good for my son to see the hard work. Like, you know, I missed a lot of things, you know. You know, I'll tell you a quick story. You know, when I was the trip right before I went home to see Julian's dad, Chief Rick, it was my son's birthday, and I was getting ready to leave Standing Rock. You know, we just bailed a bunch of guys, helped get guys out of jail, and I was in Julian's tent, and it was me and Julian and a few of the other Lakota. And I said, Julian, I got to go home. It's my son's 4th birthday party. Right? I got to go home. If I miss it, he's going to be heartbroken. I had been there for a few weeks. And he looked at me and he said, you know what? He said, you can go home, and I understand that. And your son needs you. He goes, but you see I just got out of jail. And you see the sacrifices that people are making here. He says, come home with me. Meet my dad. Meet Chief Rick. Let's do a sweat lodge together. And let's keep doing this. Let's keep working together. And maybe someday your son will be proud of you and be proud of the sacrifices that you made. And so I had to call my son and say, I'm not going to, how do you tell a 4-year-old you're not going to be there for his birthday? You know, but I went and told him. And, you know, and then there I was a few years later, and he was there at that awards dinner, and he got it. You know, and he even reminded me of when I missed that birthday and how proud he was that you know, and so it was a pretty beautiful experience, really.
Yeah, yeah. I made a bet with your son. I think I owe him some money from one of those
Nice.
from one of those times. I think he conned me out of some money.
Yeah.
Flynn conned me out of some money. I think I owe him $1. So I don't want him to come in, you know, to beat me up later on down the road. So tell him I got him later.
He's training. Be careful.
Yeah, I know, for real. So first of all, the film, if you guys haven't had a chance to see it, it's available on Amazon Prime right now. Amazon
Prime right now, soon to be on Apple and a bunch of other platforms, but for now it's just on Prime. Yeah.
Yeah, guys. So please if you got some time, check it out. It's an amazing, amazing documentary. And you know, thank you for telling me that story. That's you know, I've seen you and your son together, so like, yeah, I've had that privilege, and it's definitely there, and I can definitely, you know, I'm not a dad, but I can empathize and sympathize with what that feeling was like at the award show. But you brought up a good point that leads me to my next set of questions. Jiu Jitsu. You and I have been in jiu-jitsu buddies forever.
10
Uh,
plus years.
yeah. Well, damn, I'm old.
I'm dating both of us.
Yeah, you're dating both of us. So Phil the documentarian, Phil the photographer. How does Phil start training Brazilian jiu-jitsu?
You know, I think it was from watching the Hoist Gracie, man, the first UFC. Like I remember, like I was always into martial arts. I did Taekwondo and karate. I did a little bit of boxing when I was growing up, and I was a bit of a scrapper. I was kind of, you know, like was always not wanting to, but always willing to mix it up. And played a lot of sports. And then I saw Hoist Gracie in the UFC, and I was like, I want to do that. That's the pinnacle, you know, and that's really what started the journey. And you know, I went to a bunch of schools before Clockwork. I went to like an MMA school called like the Ultimate Gym, and it was like a totally bad fit. Like, you know, I went and did some Muay Thai for a little while, and then when I found Clockwork, I just the first day I was there, I said, "This is my home." You know,
So what about going? You know, what about getting into the art attracted you the most after that first lesson, after that first private, after that first class, whatever that was for you? What was the light bulb that turned it on? Because you know, I think we all have similar stories, right? All of our jujitsu journeys. I think everybody I've talked to so far has always referred back to UFC 1, UFC 2, the Gracies. But you know, we walk in a room and we're getting our asses kicked. Like,
yeah.
what about that feeling and being a part of, you know, jujitsu brought you back in to the mats day 3, day 4?
I think at the same time I discovered jujitsu, I discovered Buddhism. And Buddhism is all about humility. It's all about dealing with your ego and checking your ego and just being a true version of yourself. And, you know, when I went into Clockwork, you know, I was a pretty strong guy. And, you know, I immediately was humbled. And in Buddhism, there's a lot of sitting meditation. And there's also a little bit of active meditation. But when the first few times I rolled, I said, "Oh, I'm meditating. I'm just here with this person. I'm trying to check my ego. I'm trying not to go nuts. I want to stay calm, and I'm meditating. And when you're done rolling, you're sitting back on the mat. You know, you're just there. You're present, man. You're in your body. You're in your mind. And you know, it's that. And then also the people, the jiu-jitsu people in general are fascinating. And in Clockwork, I find them even more interesting. It's everyone from all walks of life are there, and we're all equal, and we all care about each other, and we're, as you said, we're strangling each other. We're trying to do these joint locks. We're looking to rip people's arms off, but we're doing it with love and respect and trust, you know. And I don't know, it's just, you know,
Yeah,
it's just,
it's the gentle art.
yeah. And I miss it, man, and I miss it.
I do. I do. I miss it. I miss it as well, sir. So, how do you feel jujitsu has helped you on this journey of being a documentarian, of being a producer, of shooting these like scenes that are hard to watch, sad, and then I mean you have this other photography that's amazing as well. But you know, how
Yeah.
do you feel that jujitsu has helped you through that journey of getting the film made or documenting things at Standing Rock that are so intense and like crazy?
You know, I think it's given me, you know, a lot. It's such a great question. There's so many different areas where jujitsu affects what I do with my work and with my photography and filmmaking. For one, it's detail. Jiu-jitsu is about the detail. Like when I remember I was rolling with you right before all this shit happened, and we're doing D-Pass stuff, and you showed me like one detail that like tied in the whole sweep together. It's always like one little damn thing. It's like you got to pull a little bit more with your wrist this way. You got a little pop there or whatever. And so there's that detail And when I'm shooting, I'm looking at every corner of the frame. I'm thinking about it like in the same way without trying to, just subconsciously. And you know, it's also given me tremendous confidence. I mean, you know, I'll get a little raw with you, man. Like, you know, Josh, you know, our sensei has been a huge influence on me, and watching him in his life, and you know, this film for me was so hard for me to make that, you know, my whole life I've never had any issues with anxiety or anything. Bro, I started having like panic attacks, you know, about 6 to 8 months ago, or maybe a year ago. And I think it was the pressure of this film and what it meant. And I started really looking at my life. And the only place where I wasn't feeling panicky to a point was at Jiu Jitsu. So it was like the one sort of sanctuary I had still. And I can go there and leave there revigorated with some confidence. And then there was one day where I went in the clockwork, and I didn't feel good, man. I started feeling that feeling in my stomach, and I left. And I was like, oh man, now I'm really screwed. I'm like, that's the one place where I'm so comfortable. Even that now is giving me this anxiety. And it was the next day I went in and met with Josh, and I sat down with him, and I'm like, bro, I'm struggling. Like, this is what's happening in my life. And I'd never exposed myself probably to anyone in that way, you know, but I was like, man, like I'm really struggling here. Like, yeah, you know, I had to leave yesterday because of this and that. And Josh just sat and listened, and we talked for a minute, and he's like, let's train, man. Let's just train. And I started training again. I started flowing again, and that energy came back. And the fact that that was a place where I can go and feel comfortable and actually speak my mind. And then, you know, everything sort of lifted from there. You know, it took a little while, but that anxiety cloud started lifting and dissipating. And I really credit jiu-jitsu for that. I credit having a place where I can go and be myself and be honest and face those fears. It was a huge thing for me, man, you know?
Agreed. Agreed. I mean, jujitsu to me has been nothing but a lifesaver since almost since the very beginning, since the first time I started. So, what has Phil been doing to supplement not having jujitsu in the last 6 to 8 weeks? And what has Phil been doing to pass the time since then physically?
Yeah, so physically I'm very lucky because I have a set of dumbbells and kettlebells and a bench. And so I've been lifting, man. Like a lot.
So what you're telling me is you're going to come back like way stronger than you already were,
Yeah,
because you're strong like a fucking bull already.
I'm lifting more than I ever have, for sure. Like straight up, like old school, you know, dumbbell incline press type working out, and then also a lot of leg stuff, box jumps, doing some cardio as well. I have a dog.
So no wonder you look so goddamn good. No wonder you look you because bro, the hair is tapered, the beard looks good.
No cut though. I've cut the hair.
Listen. I see motherfuckers on a daily that look like they haven't been touched in like 7 years. You are looking like a fucking suave motherfucker over here.
Yeah, I've been training, and honestly, man, it's really weird because there are days where I'm homeschooling my son Flynn. I'm here with Flynn and my wife Nicola, and that's Flynn over there, and my dog Red, who's jumping on my lap. And I have these, it's like we're forced into this sort of little house on the prairie life where like I'm teaching him how to read. We're going over mathematics, and then I'm cooking 3 meals a day, and I'm cleaning, and it's so incredible. And it's like, it's the best time ever. But then, like, you know, I turn on CNN, and it crashes me a little bit, you know?
So are you smarter than a 5th grader?
Not really. Not Mandarin, man. My kid studies Mandarin, so yeah.
Wow. So what's your, and we'll get to Charles's question in a second, but what are you most looking, other than training again, right? Other than that piece, because I think we're all looking forward to training, and half of us are going to have shitty cardio when we come back, but what are you most looking forward to when we are able to train again? And part two of that is what do you want to spend your life at purple belt getting better at?
I mean, I'm looking forward to the people, man. I'm looking forward to being able to like just be with my friends, to be with you, to be with Josh, to be with Kyle, to be with, you know, Seb, to be with the crew and just be there on the mats. And I'm also looking forward to coming back and competing, man. I want to go hard when jiu-jitsu is back online. I want to do tournaments. I want to train. I'm not comfortable up here. I want to go for a brown belt. I want to go for a black belt. I want to really go all in. I mean, this experience and not being able to train has made me realize how much I love it and how much I need it. It's like drinking water, you know?
For sure. What about BJJ? I like catch myself saying those three letters and then like, what about BJJ brings you joy?
What about BJJ brings me joy? I think
Big Charles.
the meditative quality, challenging myself, fighting with my friends. Stop, Flynn. This is Flynn, by the way. We're
What's
almost
up,
done.
Flynn?
Give me
Yeah.
30 seconds. Yes, welcome to quarantine life. Yeah. Flynn, easy, man. Come on.
Cool. So, what's a move, a technique that you're looking forward to working on, and what is something that you want to get better at in your jiu-jitsu journey, maybe over the next 6 months once we're back to training?
I gotta get better at bottom, man. I gotta be comfortable on my back. I mean, I'm a top guy. I'm always looking to pass the guard, looking to smash, looking to probably use more muscle than I need to. I need to get better at being more graceful, using you know, leverage rather than strength. You know, something I was just starting to really get into, that nice bottom game, you know, X guard and deep half because of you.
You know, sometimes you gotta trap a knee. That's all I'm gonna say.
Exactly,
Sometimes
man.
just trap a
Exactly.
knee because it's always there. Anyway, with that being said, Phil, I'm gonna let you get back to Flynn and let you get back to the missus. But before I let you go, anything you want to plug? Anything you want to talk about for our lovely viewers? Anything you want them to know about you? The floor is yours, my friend.
Hey, if you want to watch a great documentary, you know, check out The Buffalo Hunt, Amazon Prime. I want to thank you for inviting me to do this. It's absolutely a pleasure, man. I love you, bro. I can't wait to see you on the mats. I want to say big up to Clockwork Jiu-Jitsu, which is, you know, the reason why we're all here, and to Josh Griffiths, the man with the plan. And I miss all my training partners. I love you all. Be good. Be safe. We'll see you on the mat.
Awesome. Phil, thank you so much for being a guest on the Half Guard Half Hour. Guys, tune in this coming week. Sensei Josh is back for part 2. We're going to get even deeper. We're going to go a little bit in. If you guys have any questions for Josh this coming Wednesday, shoot me a DM. And then ADCC double gold champion JT Torres, 1 p.m. this coming Friday, guys. Check it out. Guys, I thank you so much. Phil, I thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thanks, Mike. You're the best, bro. I love you.
Later,
man.
brother.
Be good.